Welcome to SoCo Chat, a podcast where we talk with county leaders, discuss the latest news, and share all things concerning our home here in beautiful Sonoma County, California. I'm your host once again, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, Paul Gullickson, and we thank you all for joining us. Our guest today is a longtime friend to this community and to me personally, Jennielynn Holmes, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Santa Rosa. As many of you know, Jennielynn has a heart and a passion for caring for some of our least fortunate in our community, and I'm speaking of our homeless community in particular. It's no secret that Catholic Charities is a key and critical partner for the County of Sonoma and for all of the county's 9 cities in battling homelessness, probably the biggest challenge of that our region faces. In 2022, as Jennielynn was taking over as leadership of Catholic Charities, the charity opened the Charities Center, a shining new service hub with 200 shelter beds, a health clinic, and a drop-in center in Santa Rosa. This was a place where homeless people could shower and launder their clothes and just be together. Soon that was followed by the opening of the larger $120 million complex called Caritas Village, which offers 128 low-income apartments built by the nonprofit Burbank Housing. We're going to talk with Jennielynn about all that. And before we get to interview, as always, I want to start with our trivia question. It's a simple one. What is the seat of the Diocese of Santa Rosa, the Catholic Diocese of Santa Rosa? What is the seat, and where is it? If you know, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. If you're correct, you'll be entered into our weekly drawing for a chance to win a SoCo Chat coffee mug. With that, let's get started with our discussion. Jennielynn, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you as always, and I look forward to the conversation.
Well, I always enjoy our conversations, wherever they may be, and I'm just glad to have you here. First, tell us, how are things going at the Caritas Center?
Man, where do I begin?
First of all, let's talk about the name, the Caritas.
Yes.
I've been mispronouncing. Yeah. I think I called it Caritas before, but it's Caritas. And what does it mean?
Yeah, it's very common, first of all, so it's okay. But yeah, so Caritas is Latin for charity or love for all, which has really become kind of our unofficial slogan at Catholic Charities to make sure that whoever comes through our front door for service or for anything that they need, we serve with love for all, with no regard of backgrounds or beliefs or anything that would maybe preclude somebody or feel they're precluded from service. But we serve everybody with love.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. And you're getting a lot of visitors these days.
We are getting a lot of visitors in a lot of our different programs. Just the other day in our immigration services, which isn't the topic, but when the judicial order was brought forward, kind of coming in opposition to President Biden's declaration, our lobby was immediately full. Yeah. We had people in our front.
People were frightened.
Very frightened. Their appointment was maybe a day away, and literally they missed that opportunity by 24 hours. So living in a very uncertain time and just making sure that they know we're there for them.
Well, this underscores that your center is not just for a place for people to live or get a shower, but it's really a place to get all kinds of information and support, right?
Absolutely. We try to be a one-stop shop to all major services in the community. You know, we serve pretty significantly in the homelessness and housing arena, but we also are the largest provider of immigration and naturalization services in our community, as well as we provide a lot of services around homelessness prevention, food access, senior services, and kind of benefits enrollment to keep people like growing their income to be more stable in home. So,
and you not only provide support for single homeless people, but also families, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, actually, when people think around homelessness, they don't automatically think of families. They think of maybe what they see most visibly, which is more the single adult population and more exclusively the chronically homeless population.
And they tend to be more visible, perhaps.
Much more visible, and kind of that's people's overall perception of homelessness. Right. But really, homelessness is very diverse in terms of who is a part of it. We have families that we shelter. We're the largest shelter for families experiencing homelessness, and at our shelter at Caritas, the residents are more than half of them are children. And, we have a lot of individuals at our shelter at Sam Jones Hall. And a lot of people don't know almost half of them are working in our community. They're employed. You probably engage with them at your local grocery
You wouldn't
mart,
know.
and you just wouldn't even know they're homeless. So the face of homelessness is not just what individuals may see the most. It's a lot more complex than that.
How many children might you have at any given time?
So we probably have, I think the last count I got, which was maybe last week, we had about 90 kids in there. And it ranges from newborns all the way up to kids age 17 or 18. And, they all have unique needs. So we're blessed. We've been able to put a children, youth, and families program in place to really deal with the comprehensive and unique needs of kids experiencing homelessness, whether kind of getting them caught up in their education.
Yeah, are you getting them connected with their
getting
schooling?
them enrolled in school, coordinating transportation, working with the school liaisons to kind of deal with any particular issues. But a lot of it is trying to help them feel normalcy when they're in their classroom.
Right.
When kids who are homeless are showing up, it might look a little different, in terms of what they're wearing or what school supplies they have or don't have, or how they get to and from school, and, the fact that there's sometimes behavioral issues and educational catch up that's needed, because when you're living in the crisis of homelessness, a lot of those things fall to the back burner.
And where do some of these families come from? Are they living like in their cars, or where we talked about how they're not as visible. Where are they living?
So a lot of the families we serve are coming from, they've been housed for the most part.
Like marginally homeless.
And most of the time they're couch surfing or, what we call doubled up or tripled up, just to kind of keep the family safe. We've actually at Charities, since we've opened, we've seen a significant increase in individuals escaping domestic violence to come to our shelter. So we're actually seeing people coming straight from home, a dangerous home, but coming straight from home to our facility to be able to start a new life, hopefully free of violence that they may have been experiencing. And so once they come to our facility, it's really about how do we stabilize, how do we kind of nurture and help heal some of the trauma, and then get them into their own independent housing.
Yeah. And obviously you're also helping them to get, take care of their medical needs. I mean,
yes.
And tell us about that.
Yeah. So part of what's been unique about Caritas Center is the co-location of services that are critical to an individual's well-being. And one of those that we have there is the Santa Rosa Community Health Center Clinic, where there's comprehensive health care for everybody who comes to that facility, particularly our kids at our facility getting pediatric care, or we have pregnant moms getting their care there to make sure they have a healthy pregnancy. We also have a Head Start program, which is operated by Sonoma Can, which is a wonderful opportunity for our kids ages 3 to 5 to get caught up in their education, because we know one of the biggest predictors of future homelessness is actually hitting major educational milestones.
Right. Yeah.
So if we can help them get there, we're preventing homelessness from the future, because as much as we love our kids, we never want to see them here as an adult.
Right. And there's studies that show that one of the great predictors of homelessness is whether they have an experience when they were younger, right?
Yes.
And you're trying to break that cycle, right?
Absolutely. We have unfortunately seen generational homelessness in families in Sonoma County. And we really believe in a 2-generation approach, where we're not just helping the head of household, the mom, the dad, or the couple, but also the second generation. So we spend a lot of time working with them to kind of do unique educational opportunities and social opportunities to maybe even show them a different way of life. Because if you only know homelessness, that's what
then it becomes normal.
Becomes normalized, and that's what you replicate. But if we can show them a different way of life and different opportunities, we can see some change in individuals kind of opening their eyes and looking to a future that doesn't include living in a shelter.
Yeah. Well, obviously Catholic Charities and Caritas Center in particular are important institutions in our community for dealing with homelessness. Do you believe your facility, in particular this center, is making a difference in supporting our homeless population?
Absolutely. I'm biased, but I have data to back it up.
Share some, would you?
First and foremost, I think anecdotally, this was a different way of doing homeless services. Yeah. This has never been done in our community to this degree. And when we looked nationwide, we haven't seen anything like this either. And really the the concept behind just the increased capacity was really around how do we design a program and a physical building for the people we serve? Because oftentimes we get gifted buildings and things of that sort, which we're very grateful for, and we make do. But sometimes the buildings can actually cause more harm than it can,
take up more resources,
or not feel safe.
That's what we saw with SAY, unfortunately.
Yeah, and at our old family center, it was the old General Hospital, and we used it as to the best of our ability, and I still think it was held up at the end by paint and love, but it didn't suit our needs. It didn't create a safe environment. For example, we only had 9 bathrooms for 138 people. Imagine getting ready in your home with your family and only having one bathroom.
That's chaos.
It's chaos. And so we really design around that. And so we really tried to make it feel like not just for them and their unique needs, but also a place that they can feel safe and they can feel belonging, and not something that's just third or fourth hand. I think there's this perception that, charity or people who are poor or experiencing homelessness, well, they should just be grateful for what they have. And yes, to a degree that's true, but we also as a community have a responsibility to restore their individual dignity.
Sure.
And so that's anecdotally some of the things we're seeing, and the clients are responding very well. It's the environment, the way people are being in the building. It's very different. And from a quantitative perspective, we've seen a huge amount of use of the building, more than we had in our old facilities. In this last year, we served 2,242 individuals.
Wow.
Which is a 13% increase compared to our old programs and facilities. And of that group of people, we had 467 families, 273 children, and 448 seniors, which unfortunately is California's largest growing homeless population.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. But I think the thing that we're most excited about is it's still kind of like, it's a pinch me moment. You have these visions and these dreams of what this facility and these programs can do. And when you see it come to fruition, it's one of those moments that lasts forever. But the most exciting statistic is we're seeing that we are getting people housed in half the time it took to house people in our old programs, which is just we hoped it would be better. The housing outcomes would be better because that's our ultimate goal. We had no idea it would be this significant of a change in how people are housed.
Well, just to be clear for our listeners, your goal is to not house them there forever, but to get them into support, help them get on their feet, and then transition them to long-term supportive housing in some way, correct?
Absolutely. So this Charities is a bridge to housing. So all of the services we provide are to get people into a safe place where they can actually take a moment to breathe, and they're surrounded by services and care and case management that ultimately can create a pathway to housing. Our end goal and everything we strive for is to get them back into housing as quickly as we can, particularly because there's a lot of data that shows the longer someone experiences homelessness, the more challenging and acute their issues become.
Right.
And so the faster we can get them into housing, the more we can avoid those long-term ripple effects happening.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you're making an impact. 2,242 people supported last year, an increase from 13% the previous year. That's impressive.
It's very exciting. And we're seeing new faces we haven't seen. And we've got dozens of stories of people who wouldn't access our old services simply because of how the design was laid out and how it was actually sometimes re-traumatizing in times when you have 200 people a day you're serving in a 1,800 square foot facility. There's just literally not enough room. And so, with that comes tension, and is not the environment we want to create to help people heal and move forward in their life. And so, we have people who are accessing our services that they never have before. We have a lot of individuals that are experiencing homelessness that have dogs. And so one of the things we looked at in our design process is if we want to engage that part of the population, we can't ask them to change
to get rid of their dog,
or anything. That might be all they have left of a happy moment in life. It could be their major companion. I mean, I have a dog. I could not imagine separating from mine. So we built kennels so that they can have their dogs with them and make sure that they feel safe with where their dogs are at, and then also they can access services.
Yeah.
So that was another shift we made.
Well, obviously, you're making a great impact. And yet, when you pull back, every year we do this point in time count. You know where I'm going. We at this point in time count is where legions of people are sent out in the community. We actually count homeless people in our community, and I know you're part of that. And our most recent point in time count just came out, and we found that our numbers for homelessness was actually up 11% overall last year, or the big start of this year from the previous year. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, I think, and one thing to pull out of the homeless count or the point in time count is, it is a moment in time. Things change. It's a very fluid. Individuals, right, are trying to survive, and so. And oftentimes trying to hide, right? They don't want to be seen. So there is some unique margin of error there. What's important to me is the trended information. What's happening from year to year? So this year we saw an increase. What happened the year before? We had a significant decrease.
Right.
When I try to pull together the correlation, what I am mostly seeing on the ground and in some of the data is the year that we had a decrease, there was a huge influx of one-time funds from COVID and other related initiatives. And we're starting to see some of that pull back. And what do you see as a direct result of that? Homelessness increases.
Right.
So when you take kind of these resources and these life-saving programs away, you see vulnerable people get more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
we're seeing it in the funds that were available for schools and hospitals and other places.
Everywhere. And so it tells two stories to me. One is, when you have an underfunded, under-resourced system of care and you infuse resources, we can make some difference. We know what to do. We know what the right things to do to get people housed. Like we saw a huge dip, right, the year before. And when you take that away, it directly correlates to people ending up on our streets. Yeah. And so that is a challenging story because we're only in the middle of the pullback of the one-time funds. ARPA ends soon, and there's a lot of programs significantly funded through that.
Sure.
So we need to start preparing when we see the data and what's telling us we have another little cliff coming.
Yeah. That's good to point that out. Was there anything else on the latest PIT count, the numbers that jumped out at you?
Yeah. So we got the information yesterday. Okay. So
this is the more detailed.
Yeah. So we dig into the subpopulation. There's a couple of alarming numbers. We saw a significant increase in the length of time someone's experiencing homelessness, which again correlates to physical health issues, mental health issues getting more severe. We saw an increase in chronic homeless population and veteran homelessness.
That's the hardest nut to crack, right? That's a really difficult population to serve.
Yeah, the chronic homelessness population are people who've been homeless for a year or more and have one or more disabilities. So, and the longer someone's homeless, the more acute those issues become. So that issue, that is the hardest one to work with. And it's also one that a lot of providers sometimes it's not their core area of focus. It is ours because our mission mandates that we serve the most vulnerable, not just vulnerable, the most vulnerable, and that's our most vulnerable. Yeah. But an exciting number is that we saw a decrease in families experiencing homelessness. And obviously, again, maybe a little biased.
Obviously, you've had a huge impact on that.
Maybe a little biased, but that correlates with our data of housing people in half the amount of time at Charities. So seeing the first year of Charities operations reflected in the PIT count in a positive way really gives us some fresh energy. And again, there are some lessons we can learn from Charities that we can maybe apply to the other subpopulations that we're seeing increases.
Yeah. Well, obviously, and that gives hope to breaking generational cycles here too.
So these kids, we don't want to see these kids as adults. Yeah. We love them, but we don't want to see them as adults.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you believe homeless families and individuals need more than anything to move into long-term supportive housing?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think housing is obviously ultimately what we need. When we look about bridging the gap to housing and then successfully staying housed, because getting them housed is one major milestone. Keeping them housed is a whole nother significant initiative we have to take with our families, because our journey doesn't really end once they get housed. That's where, in some ways, it begins. So the things that we find that are most successful is the right level of support services when they're going through the shelters and through the housing search process. you really need a lot of kind of specialty help, right? If you're a
Right.
family, you need someone to specialize in the youth services
Mhm.
and keeping their kids in school. You also need someone to help you find housing, and you might need someone to help you find a
Find a
job.
job.
So
Yeah.
having a suite of services is incredibly important. And once they get housed, we have to also continue to that support, because the issues they were dealing with in homelessness are not the same issues they're going to be dealing with when you're housed.
Yeah.
And there's some funding that gets put in the communities for building housing, but not the support services to keep people housed. So that's
Yeah.
a critical one. But I would say even more generalized than that is community and social integration.
Mhm.
One of the things I see in my 15 years doing this work is the invisibility and the judgment they
Mhm.
feel,
The
and they
stigma.
take home with
Yeah.
them, or they take back to where they're living. I mean,
Mhm.
feeling judged and feeling stigmatized that much every single day
Yeah.
does take a toll on your mental health and well-being.
Sure.
And they feel judged, they feel marginalized and cast aside. And
Mhm.
when people feel that way, they have a lot less they feel to lose.
Yeah.
And when you get into that mindset, unfortunately, it gets harder and harder and harder to break it. And
Yeah.
so if we really want to look at solving this issue on a larger community-wide issue, we've
Mhm.
got to integrate them into our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
We need to have people that aren't just us working in this field, but
Right.
volunteers helping them to create social connections outside of
Yeah.
the ways they already know. Because
Yeah.
if you, again, perpetuate, the same ways you've always known, that's where you're going to end up. And we
That's
want to
right.
show people that they are a part of community. They do have a lot to give, and they really do understand how they can get connected in on a
Yeah.
more social and societal way. And
Yeah.
not having that, you lose a lot of hope. And
Yeah.
when you don't have hope, it's really hard to
Yeah.
move forward.
Yeah. Well, that's true for all of us. I
Mhm.
mean, we all want to be valued and respected, and feel like we have a place to call
Exactly.
home, and you know we all need those connections,
Yeah.
and it's what you're learning is incredibly valuable. Tell us, how did you get started in this? What led you to this as a career?
It's such a fun story for me. I never planned this for myself. So kind of going back a little bit, I was born and raised here in Sonoma County.
Hmm.
I was born in Roseland, and I live there now today in Southwest Santa Rosa. So Santa Rosa and Sonoma County has always been my home, and I know this is where I've always wanted to do my work. My goal growing up in this community was I wanted to be the first person to go to college or graduate college, because I felt like it would change,
Hmm.
similar to what I've been saying, some of the trajectory and opportunities that might be available to me. And so when I got out of that, my next plan was law school, but I had to save up money. So I, straight out of college, got 3 jobs back here in Sonoma County, and one of them happened to be a part-time counselor at Sam Jones Hall.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, they're our largest shelter for individuals that we operate with the city of Santa Rosa. And to this day, I don't know why they hired me.
I can take a guess, but go ahead.
I had a history degree, and so I was clearly on my way to law school. And I remember walking in that first day with not knowing what to expect, and not necessarily knowing, even really how to engage. But what I quickly found was how uniquely amazing these individuals are, and how nobody sees that. And the stories they have and the hope they hold to get out of this situation. It's just such an untold story around homelessness. And so I absolutely fell in love with the people. I fell in love with the work, and I loved the mission. The mission of Catholic Charities is so unique because, again, we're not just serving anyone. We will, but we want to get to the hardest to serve, and we want to serve the people that everyone else turns away from and leans out, and we want to lean into those people. And it just felt so unique to be able to serve in that way.
Yeah.
And so anyway, law school was a long it was a long gone thought, and I went back and got my master's in public administration, and then was able to kind of work mostly in the homelessness field until a more generalized position, and now currently serving as the CEO. So it's kind of unique to tell, especially new employees,
You've Risen
started
all
as
the
a
way to the
part-time
top.
counselor and you could be here, right? And so I feel blessed and I just feel really honored to be trusted with the important work that we do.
Well, you obviously are a great community asset for us, and we're all fortunate to have you where you are. I usually end these by asking, what do you like most about your job? But I think you just told us. But
Yes.
it seems to me that, so often in the community, we see the homelessness in our community, but we don't always see the joyful part of it.
Hmm.
And is that what your answer would be? That's the part of your job you
Yeah,
like the
there's
most, is the
actually
successes?
absolutely there's seeing the successes of people changing their life is
Yeah.
amazing. And people feeling belonging is so unique. And
Hmm.
I love the teams I get to work alongside of. I love getting to bring people along and help them join our mission, whether it's a
Hmm.
donor or a volunteer or another stakeholder. Like we have a compelling work we're doing, and to be building kind of a movement to help
Hmm.
the most vulnerable is really exciting.
Yeah.
And to have shared mission, you create a connection with one another in ways
Yeah.
you can't normally.
Well, I think one thing that people often don't understand is how much people who benefit from these services come back and give back. They
Hmm.
stay involved. They
Yep.
volunteer. They sometimes become
Yep.
employees. They are so appreciative of what they get, and you see that constantly. People coming
Absolutely.
back.
We don't get to see the stories of all of the people who've exited
Right.
homelessness. You see the people who unfortunately are still in homelessness, and we have work to do there.
Hmm.
But there are more people that have successfully exited into housing and are no longer homeless and have been homeless for years. And I have hundreds of those stories.
Yeah.
Even in our own agency, we do hire people that have come through our service. It's important for us to give them a place of fresh start and to help them engage with our participants in a peer way. And to watch them grow in their leadership role it's one of my favorite things in
Yeah.
the world. And
Yeah.
several of them are in management and upper level positions, and they started like I did. So I firmly believe that they could be the CEO one
They
day.
might be.
So,
Well, we're glad that you are CEO, and we're so grateful to have you here. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. And we're going to have you back because I would love to do these periodic check-ins with you.
absolutely.
So,
I would love to talk more. I could talk
yeah.
lots more to share, but I'm
Yeah.
so grateful and thank you for sharing this
Well,
information.
as a thank you, you're going to get one of our SoCo Chat
Oh,
coffee mugs. So,
yay.
and as always, we'd like to give our listeners a chance to get a mug as well. If you can answer today's trivia question. As a reminder, our question is, what is the seat of the Diocese of Santa Rosa, the seat of the Catholic Diocese of Santa Rosa? And if you know, call us at 707-565-2242 or email us at publicaffairs, one word, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. If you submit your answer, we will enter you into our weekly drawing for a chance to win one of our SoCo Chat coffee mugs. Also, if you have any thoughts about today's episode or have a suggestion for a future topic for SoCo Chat, please email us at that same address, publicaffairs@sonoma-county.org. Thank you all. And we hope you continue to follow SoCo Chat on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and of course, YouTube. We'll see you all next time. Thank you, Jennielynn.
Thank you.